Hi everyone, welcome to Emergence 2025 Investment Conference here at Four Seasons Hotel in Sydney. Joining me here today is Ahmad Saleem, co-founder and CEO of Podyssey. Hi Ahmad, welcome to the event.
Thanks, Jade.
Okay, so let's talk about the podcast consumption, which has grown exponentially over the recent years. Can you share some insights about the market size and the specific problem Podyssey is addressing in this space?
Sure. I guess, you made the point that podcasts have grown exponentially. I guess, by some estimates, they're the fastest growing media now around. And so numbers wise, there's about 500 million people that listen to podcasts weekly. And that's doubled in the last couple of years and it's expected to double again. So it's not a market that's slowing down. It's a market that's growing. And traditionally, it always used to be a little bit more North American focused, but now we can see that it's getting more into Europe and other regions as well.
Really interesting insight, especially with the advent of influencers right now. Some of them are into podcasts, right? We want to know more about your USP. Like, what makes Podyssey's search technology unique? And how does it technically accomplish the task of searching within audio content?
So sorry, you mentioned before, you asked the question, what's the problem that Podyssey is trying to solve? And I guess the problem really is, maybe on like a holistic level, as podcast content has got more and more, just the amount of content that's being produced is getting more and more. It's not so much the accessibility of the content that's becoming a problem. It's really the searchability of that content. Like, how do you find the content you really like? Say there was only 100 podcasts and you wanted to listen to 5, then, the numbers are in your favor. But if there's 1 million podcasts and you only want to listen to 5, how do you pick which 5 you want to listen to out of the million? So as the content's grown, the discoverability or the searchability of that content is becoming a problem. And so what Podyssey is really trying to solve is that for a long, long time, well, not for a long, long time, but up until now, the only way you could search podcast content is via essentially the titles. So you can search by the podcast title or the episode title and some notes that the podcaster puts on there. But that's not a very effective way of searching the content. Imagine if you could only search web pages by their address, how effective you would be at finding the content you wanted. And so that's really been the problem with podcasts, is as they become more and more, it's become really hard to search that content in a meaningful way. And so essentially what Podyssey is the Google for podcasts. So we built a search engine for podcasts. And so it allows you to search all the podcast content. So not just the titles, but everything within the episode itself. So for example, if there's a favorite podcast you like and it's an hour-long podcast, and 10 minutes they mention something the trivia, some trivia about Roger Federer, the tennis player, right? And so how do you find that 10-minute clip? You'd have to remember which episode it was in, where in the episode it was, and then you'd have to finally go and find it. And so Podyssey essentially allows you to do that. So in our search engine, you could just type trivia about Roger Federer, and it'll go find that little 10-minute clip where someone has talked about it. And then not just that, but it will then look for clips on Roger Federer and through all the podcasts. So you don't necessarily, you can just kind of find exactly what you're looking for.
That's really interesting. And I think Podyssey is one of the pioneers in this field. I think this is the first time I heard that. But regarding your scale, what is your current monetization strategy and how do you plan to scale revenue as the platform grows?
Well, I guess scaling wise from a commercial point of view is pretty simple. That's what apps allow you to do. It'll be the same as Spotify. You can use it for free, or you can pay a subscription to use it, and it unlocks a certain number of features. So in that sense, we are a traditional podcast platform. I guess what's different is that we also are trying to build a platform for content creators. So if you're someone that creates a podcast, you can come and put all of your content on our platform, and we can kind of create all the little topics and the little clips for you. And then you can use those to spread them around on social media or wherever you do your marketing. So from that point of view, scalability is not from a user point of view, is not really a problem. It's really the content that's the scalability that we'll hit at some point. Since the start of time, there's been about 6 million podcasts. We don't have all of them on our platform, but over time we will get them all on there. So it's more the scalability of content that we as a startup are probably going to face before users.
Okay, That's actually awesome. We want to know more about your competitive edge. So there are several players in the podcast space. So what gives Podyssey its competitive edge, and how defensible is your technology?
I guess the competitive edge is that there's no other podcast platform that allows you to search within podcast content. So, like Spotify, all of these big giants, they're still based on their old method of searching through titles. So that's what differentiates us. So currently, we don't have a competitor. We're a first mover in this space. How defensible? I mean, it's a double-edged question. Like, yeah, if Spotify really wanted to do this, they could do it. Yeah, they're a billion-dollar gorilla. Like, yeah, if they wanted to do it, they could do it. But I guess what differentiates us is, like, we're really trying to become an aggregator of podcasts. Like, so we don't really care what platforms they sit on. We want to try to aggregate all of that content. In that sense, we're ahead of everyone else at this point. As long as we stay ahead, that's our competitive edge, and we can kind of maintain that edge for as long as we can. And also other platforms, like, some podcast platforms have gone down the path of exclusive content. So Spotify, there's only content that's sponsored by Spotify or funded by Spotify. It's only available on Spotify. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to do the opposite. We're trying to make it that, if you want to find any content in any podcasts around the world, you just come to one platform, and that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, that's what we can really call as disruptive innovation. It's really quite interesting. But we want to know, what partnerships have you secured or are you pursuing with podcast platforms and content creators?
Yeah, so largely we focus on content creators right now. Largely because they, effectively, I think they're somewhat of an underrepresented kind of class right now. So we're focusing on them. But from a partnership of like corporate partnerships, we're really working with marketing or digital marketing agencies. We see, from an advertiser point of view, advertising is not the easiest thing for on podcasts. But for example, 60-minute podcast episode has 2 to 3 ads. If we are separating them into 5-minute clips, we have 12 times the opportunity to put ads on. And as a marketer, you can target it a lot more specifically. You might want to just put an ad on the 10-minute clip in the Joe Rogan episode where he talks about health supplements, and not the other 2 hours and 50 minutes where he talks about MMA or something like that. So as an advertiser, you can kind of target that. So we're really working with advertisers to see, like, what does the new landscape of advertising in podcasts look like if you're not bound by having to do it on an episode level.
That's fantastic. And what about your long-term vision for Podyssey? What are the key milestones that you aim to achieve in the next 12 to 24 months?
I mean, I guess we're an app, so like our major milestone is we want to get as many users on board as possible. So our milestones are, like, we want to get to 1 million users at some point, which is not really an unachievable thing considering that there's 500 million listeners on a weekly basis. So our growth really profile is really on trying to get build our team as well internally. The other one is we want to get as many users on board, and then there's a number of development features and things like that we have in the pipeline that we will slowly release over the year as well. So the aim for like the next kind of 12 to 24 months is, if we grow really quickly, we will hopefully hit that 1 million user mark. If we grow slowly, then at some point we're going to have to start monetizing the app as well, just so we can survive as a startup.
Amazing. These are truly exciting times for Podyssey, I guess. Lastly, we want to know your experience here at Emergence 2025. How has been your experience here so far?
Well, it's the first time I've come to this conference. I have to be honest, I didn't really know what to expect. But I think I guess I'm quite surprised by the breadth of types of companies and investors that have come on. It's everything from longer term investments like real estate all the way down to startups. So it's quite a unique event in that sense that it's catering for the really, really long term investors, the really short term kind of crypto investors, or even the high risk investors like people that want to invest in startups. So as far as my first impression of it, I think it's pretty good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ahmad, for granting us this short interview. And to all our viewers, thank you so much for watching. And I look forward to seeing you in our next interviews.